Babylon was one of the most powerful cities in the ancient world. It existed in what we now call Iraq, along the Euphrates River, and dominated the region for over 1,000 years. This video explains how it grew, how it worked, and why it eventually disappeared. Babylon started small. Around 4,000 years ago, it was just another farming town along the Euphrates River in Mesopotamia, the region between two great rivers in what is now Iraq. The location had good soil, reliable water, and a spot where people could cross the river. Nothing special yet. What changed everything was Babylon's position on the map. Imagine the ancient world's trade routes like highways. Babylon sat right where several of these highways crossed. Merchants traveling from the Persian Gulf up to Turkey, or from the Mediterranean Sea across to Iran, had to pass through or near Babylonian territory. The city started collecting fees from these traders and became wealthy simply by being in the right place. The real transformation came under a king named Hammurabi, who ruled around 1750 BCE. He conquered the surrounding cities and united them under Babylon's control, but his military victories weren't what made him historically important. What mattered was what he did next. Hammurabi created a set of written laws that applied to everyone in his empire, regardless of which city they came from or what gods they worshipped. Think about why this mattered. In the ancient world, most business happened between strangers. A merchant in Babylon might loan money to a farmer 300 miles away. A builder might agree to construct a house for someone he'd never met. How could anyone trust each other? Hammurabi's law code solved this problem by writing down exactly what would happen if someone broke an agreement. If you borrowed silver and didn't pay it back, here's the penalty. If you built a house and it collapsed, here's what happens to you. These laws were carved into stone pillars and placed in public spaces where people could see them. Copies were sent to cities throughout the empire. For the first time, you didn't need to personally know someone to do business with them. You just needed to know the system would enforce the rules. This is why Babylon became more than just another ancient city. It developed a way to organize thousands of people who didn't know each other, allowing them to cooperate, trade, and build something larger than any single community. It was one of humanity's first experiments in large-scale social organization. Babylon reached its greatest size and power about 1,000 years after Hammurabi, under a king named Nebuchadnezzar II, who ruled from 605 to 562 BCE. This is the Babylon most people picture when they hear the name. Massive walls, towering gates, and gardens that seem to defy nature itself. The city was enormous by ancient standards. The outer walls stretched 11 miles around the entire city. These weren't ordinary walls. They were wide enough that a chariot pulled by 4 horses could turn around on top of them. Guard towers stood every 50 yards, giving soldiers a clear view in all directions. Getting into Babylon meant passing through one of 8 massive gates, each one dedicated to a different god. The most famous was the Ishtar Gate, covered in blue glazed bricks decorated with yellow lions and dragons. When sunlight hit these tiles, the gate seemed to glow. Walking through it meant entering a different world. The main street, called the Processional Way, ran straight from the gate to the city center. It was paved with limestone slabs and lined with more decorated walls, showing over 100 lions in profile. Inside the city walls, Babylon operated like a well-organized machine. The population probably reached 200,000 people, making it one of the largest cities on Earth at the time. Most people lived in small houses built around central courtyards. These homes were made of mud brick, the most common building material in a region with little stone or timber. The city was divided into districts. There were residential neighborhoods, commercial areas with markets and workshops, and temple complexes that functioned like small cities within the city. The largest temple belonged to Marduk, Babylon's patron god. It included a ziggurat, a massive step tower that dominated the skyline. Priests lived in the temple complex year-round, managing not just religious ceremonies, but also the temple's vast agricultural lands and business interests. Water came from the Euphrates River, which ran directly through the city. Engineers had built an elaborate system of canals that distributed water to different neighborhoods and drained sewage away from residential areas. This was advanced urban planning for its time. The social structure was hierarchical but more fluid than you might expect. At the top were the king and royal family. Below them came priests, who controlled enormous wealth and political influence. Then came merchants, scribes, and skilled craftsmen. These were free citizens who could own property and participate in the legal system. Below them were farmers and laborers, and at the bottom were slaves, mostly prisoners of war or people who'd fallen into debt. But here's what's interesting. Social mobility existed. A successful merchant could become wealthy enough to rival priests. A talented scribe could rise to important administrative positions. The system valued competence and productivity, not just birth. Life in Babylon depended on where you stood in the social hierarchy, but everyone shared certain realities. The city woke up early. Summers in southern Iraq are brutally hot, so people did most of their work before midday, rested during the afternoon heat, and became active again in the evening. Most Babylonians worked 6 days a week. Bakers started before dawn, firing up clay ovens to make barley bread, the staple food for almost everyone. Brewers made beer, which people drank daily because the water wasn't always safe. Craftsmen worked in small workshops making pottery, textiles, metal tools, and jewelry. Scribes sat in temple offices or government buildings, writing contracts, recording tax payments, and copying religious texts onto clay tablets. The streets were crowded and loud. Donkeys hauled goods through narrow lanes. Merchants shouted to attract customers. Children played in whatever open space they could find. The smell was intense. Cooking fires burning dried dung for fuel, animals everywhere, open sewers running alongside some streets, mixed with the scent of fresh bread, spices, and perfume oils sold in the markets. Women in Babylon had more rights than in many ancient societies. They could own property, run businesses, and appear in court as witnesses. Wealthy women sometimes managed large estates, but most women's lives centered on managing households, raising children, and contributing to family businesses. Marriage was essentially a contract between families, and divorce was possible, though it came with financial penalties. Education existed but wasn't universal. Only children from wealthy families, mostly boys, learned to read and write. Becoming a scribe required years of training, memorizing hundreds of cuneiform symbols and practicing on clay tablets until your handwriting was perfect. It was the path to a stable, respected career. But beneath this organized daily life, serious tensions were building. Babylon's power depended on controlling surrounding territories and extracting tribute from conquered peoples. This required a permanent military and constant campaigns to keep subjects in line. Young men were regularly conscripted into the army and many never came back. Taxes were heavy. Farmers had to give up a portion of their harvest. Merchants paid fees on goods entering and leaving the city. These taxes funded the army, the bureaucracy, the massive building projects, and the temples. When harvests were poor, people struggled. Debt became a trap that could lead to losing your land or even your children, who could be sold into slavery to pay what you owed. Political tensions simmered between the palace and the temples. Both wanted control over resources and influence. Kings needed the priests to legitimize their rule, but priests controlled vast wealth and land independently. It was a delicate balance that didn't always hold. By the 6th century BCE, the empire had grown so large and complex that it required enormous resources just to maintain itself. The system was becoming unsustainable. Babylon's end didn't come as a sudden catastrophe. It was a slow fade that took centuries, caused by multiple factors working together. The first major blow came in 539 BCE, when Cyrus the Great of Persia conquered the city. Surprisingly, there was no battle. Babylon's gates opened without a fight. The population was exhausted from decades of war, heavy taxation, and internal political struggles. Many Babylonians saw Cyrus as a liberator rather than a conqueror. He walked in peacefully and made Babylon part of the Persian Empire. But the city didn't die then. It continued as an important regional center for another 300 years. Alexander the Great even chose it as the capital of his empire after he conquered Persia. He had ambitious plans to restore Babylon to its former glory, connecting Greek and Eastern cultures. Then he died there in 323 BCE at age 32, and those plans died with him. The real decline came gradually through less dramatic causes. The Euphrates River, Babylon's lifeline, shifted its course over time. This made the city harder to supply with water and disrupted the canal systems that had made the surrounding farmland so productive. New cities were built nearby with better access to trade routes and water. Seleucia, founded by one of Alexander's generals, began attracting people and commerce away from Babylon. As opportunities moved elsewhere, so did people. Babylon's population shrank. Buildings fell into disrepair. Without constant maintenance, mud brick structures deteriorate quickly in the desert climate. The great walls crumbled. The famous gates collapsed. By the time the Roman Empire controlled the region, Babylon was already mostly ruins. When Arab scholars visited the site in the Middle Ages, they found scattered broken bricks and local villagers who had no idea they were living on top of one of history's greatest cities. Babylon had been so thoroughly forgotten that 19th century archaeologists weren't even sure where to dig. But Babylon's legacy survived its physical destruction. The legal concepts Hammurabi developed influenced Persian, Greek, and Roman law, which in turn shaped modern legal systems. Babylonian mathematics, based on a numerical system of 60, gave us the 60-minute hour and the 60-second minute we still use today. Their astronomical observations and star charts contributed to the development of astronomy as a science. More fundamentally, Babylon proved that large, diverse populations could be organized under shared institutions and rules. It demonstrated that strangers could cooperate across vast distances through written agreements and enforceable laws. Every modern city owes something to the administrative and legal innovations first tested in Babylon. The city itself is gone, but the ideas it developed about how to organize human society at scale remain embedded in civilization itself.